Welcome to Fire Your Doctor, episode 30. And it's a new year. Is it season 2?
It is season 2. Richard Lockwood. Hello.
Welcome, Dr. Danielle Lockwood.
Welcome back from the holidays. 2026 is here. If you're listening to this 5 years from now, this is 2026 right now.
Yeah, sorry for the irrelevant time references.
Yes.
That don't mean anything to you.
Exactly. What are we doing? Let's see. Episode 30. Very exciting. Why you're doing, quote, all the right things and still not getting better. The hidden blocks that stall healing. This is a good one, actually.
Yeah, so let's break that down a little bit. What you are meaning by titling it that is someone they're eating healthy, they're listening to all the right podcasts, they're taking these different supplements, they've made lifestyle changes, and they're just like, I still feel terrible.
Yep. That's who I'm talking about. Very common. And even if people are doing those things, are they doing them consistently? That should be evaluated as well. That's worth saying.
Or are they doing too much of them for too long?
Or are they doing too much? Have they worn themselves thin?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in the next episode, actually.
I've been too healthy before.
Yes, you have.
It's possible.
And then you get too hungry.
Well, that's all the prey animals' problem. So I'm going to eat them.
So many people are not failing at health. They're stuck because they're working out of order. Healing doesn't respond to effort alone. It responds to alignment, safety, and sequence.
I think sequence would be one of the most opportune or significant things in that sentence. So I'll give you an example. Or how about this? Somebody is like, I felt terrible. So I started taking supplements, and then I got told, well, hey, what good are the supplements if you're not actually working out with the supplements? So I started working out, and then I realized, well, hey, I'm overweight. And so then I started changing my diet, my foods, and things like that. And I still feel terrible. I haven't lost weight, and I'm on the edge of picking up a sports injury. So what could be possible reasons for this? And I'll just throw out a couple of hypotheses, and you can bat them down.
Great.
Or whatever. So one, the supplements didn't work because you don't have gut health, and so they weren't absorbed properly.
True.
So supplements
that could
just
be one reason.
Went in and out, right? And you just kind of wasted that. The exercise didn't really work because you had metabolic issues that were making your body incapable of hormonally responding to the trauma to your muscles with increased muscle development, weight loss, and all those things that you would want to get out of exercise.
Yes, if your stress hormones are too high, it's very difficult to lose weight while you're in fight or flight.
And then the third thing that you tried were dietary changes, and maybe that didn't really work because, see the previous two. If you have an unhealthy gut, if you are not in a hormonal place where you could respond to exercise, things like that, there's also a chance that you're not going to really respond to dietary changes.
That's true. And there's also people who they'll follow somebody on some health coach on Instagram, like an Instagram guru who's like, I lost a ton of weight by eating only pineapple for 3 weeks.
That's also a good point, is who are you following? And if that might be a good plan for somebody, but is it the right plan for you? Mm-hmm. And I think that's where actually medical direction matters.
Absolutely.
And then I would add one other kind of rider onto that, is that when it comes to hormonal health, you'll look at teenagers and even people maybe in their 20s or even 30s sometimes, and they're doing a lot of things that would be wrong for their health, but their body is still working. So there is kind of this way that we're steering a battleship.
When to use what, when?
Yeah, and then how long to expect a result, meaning like, I have been eating right for dozens and dozens of seconds, doctor, and I have not seen the benefit. And it's like, well, to be fair, it took 25 years for this unhealthy pattern to develop. You might have to eat right for a year, 2 years, 3, 4 years to really have diet and things like that start to have their full effect.
So, and then what happens is people will start in on that, and then that leads to shame, self-blame,
disappointment.
Then it can swing the other way. Maybe they do get results, and now they're controlling everything.
You're addicted to the results.
Yes.
And that's actually, I've been in that situation where I've been too healthy.
Yes.
Where it's like I was working out a lot, I was in great shape. You cannot stay in a competition fitness level forever.
That's true. Well, you shouldn't. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, what is and what is forever.
Yeah.
5 years later, 10 years later, your knee's going to blow out. You're going to have an injury. You're going to have something.
Well, I would also say that most people, even myself, before I was trained in naturopathic medicine and functional medicine, my belief system was that I was preventing things by, for example, addressing the symptoms or
Okay.
managing the symptoms, and instead of going to a restoration of the system itself and actually figuring out what was going on. I was like, well, I mean, I don't know, maybe my liver is having issues. I'll just randomly take this liver cleanse that I found at the health food store and just see how I feel.
Right. Which may or may not work.
Maybe it worked. Maybe it didn't. I never really found any major results from those types of things, just kind of doing this one-off thing.
Right. Right.
Because there was no rhyme or reason to it. And there was no understanding about how the body actually heals. And it heals in these layers, right? It heals. You have to open things up. Then you got to move things out. Then you've got to restore we talk about the order of healing. We have to go from the inside out. We have to heal the gut. We have to balance the blood sugar. We have to address the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse, the energy center of the cell.
Can you tell people about, give them maybe like the smoke alarm example as far as like symptoms?
Yes. So if you pull the batteries out of a smoke alarm, have you addressed the fire?
No.
No, but you're not hearing the alarm anymore. So therefore, no fire.
Right. So how does this hit the road in terms of health? Is like I look in the mirror and I'm like, I'm fat now. This sucks. Whatever. I don't want to be this way. That might be the smoke alarm where I'm just like, I want to look good when I see myself in the mirror. It's like, number one, take your glasses off. You won't see anything. No, that's a joke. But no, but we have these things as a human that is like the thing that I want to do. I want to be a certain weight. I want to be able to perform athletically or in other areas of your life. Those things are an alarm that something deeper might be going on.
Yeah. So weight gain is a symptom.
But me losing the weight doesn't necessarily mean that I fixed hormonally why I gained that weight in the first place.
In the same way that if you all of a sudden just started dropping weight for no reason, that would be a symptom. But that isn't the reason. Like the weight loss itself or the weight gain itself isn't the major reason why you are sick.
Yeah, and it can be a contributing factor.
Yes, it can contribute to inflammation for unnecessary weight gain, and it could actually mean that there's tissue destruction and wasting happening if there's random weight loss for no reason.
That can actually, the weight gain is an interesting example because it can be a symptom and it can also be a cause, especially with regard to like inflammation, is that sometimes you can end up in a positive feedback loop. Can you talk about that?
Say that again.
Weight gain is an interesting one, and even weight loss, but weight gain in this example can be a positive feedback loop, meaning that weight gain causes inflammation, but inflammation causes hormonal conditions related to cortisol that would make it difficult to lose weight and you more likely to gain weight. And so in that sense, your symptoms can sometimes start reinforcing their cause.
That's true. Yeah, we've talked about that pretty extensively.
Yeah, it's a good one to kind of tie it back to.
Yeah, I have to admit, I wasn't listening to you when you asked the question.
I wasn't listening to me either.
I was actually reading the notes. Like, what did I cover everything I needed to?
No, I just think that's an important thing to realize is it's not just like purely, well, this weight gain is simply a symptom. And it's like, it can be a symptom, but there's also kind of a self-reinforcing pattern. And that's one of the ways that it can get sticky.
If it was 100% the symptom, if people lost the weight and they didn't have any more metabolic issues. Yeah. If it was the 100% of the cause, if this was like, hey, this is the reason why I'm sick is because I have gained this weight, then why wouldn't we see a 100% restoration in other systems, right? So it's part of a metabolic disorder. It's part of the picture because you've gained and put on that weight. Now you've caused destruction in these other parts of your body. Yes, we need to lose the weight, but more importantly, we need to restore the function of the system.
Right. Let's talk about healing versus management. Or do you think we covered that already? Or what do you think?
Well, I mean, it goes hand in hand with this. It's healing is you don't, there's no disease remaining. There's no disorder remaining. That's healing. It's
like
gone.
The problem is completely solved.
It's a complete resolution of the problem. Symptom management is, hey, I don't have a problem as long as I take this pill to get my blood pressure under control. It's like, well, as long as I get my blood pressure under control, I don't have any issues at all.
Yep.
So, do I really have blood pressure problems as long as I take this pill? That's what the conventional
Uh,
system would like people to think,
yeah, that's
right?
complicated. Yeah. Where,
Yes.
but also really simple. No, I think it's,
Or I don't have diabetes. I don't have diabetes. I take my insulin and I can eat whatever I want to eat and I'm fine as long as I take my insulin.
that's tough. Yeah. That's like being in your car. There was this old joke my friend told me. He's like, oh, my car's kind of rattling. I was like, well, what'd you do about it? And he's like, I turned on the stereo so you couldn't hear it. I was
Mhm.
like, well, I guess we solved that. Solved that. You're not going to hear that noise anymore.
Yes, exactly. So we also have the second order. So first it would be inside out, that's gut, blood sugar, mitochondria. Then it would be top down, that would be brain and nervous system regulating everything. So this kind of goes into a little bit of the signaling that you get from the cells when they're in danger. So they've been exposed to a toxin, your cells freak out. It's called cell danger response. And it's telling the body alarm system, alarm system, alarm system. It lets out all sorts of cytokine signaling, which causes inflammation, causes you to slow down, causes you to not lose weight, causes all sorts of issues because it's dealing with the danger. It's not there to make energy.
Let's think about that. So wait a minute. Top down, my eyes physically see a threat. My brain releases hormones and interprets that as a life and death situation. I go into fight or flight mode, and then that kind of goes from my nervous system and propagates down all through my body,
Yes.
right? Then I think what you might be saying, if I'm getting this right, cell danger response is that the
Internal.
individual little cells in your body, those individual little cells are going to be perpetually at that point, or at least potentially perpetually in a fight or flight state or something like
Yeah,
that.
they're letting off chemical signals
And then
to
it's
tell
bottom
your
up.
nervous system that it is still in a fight or flight
Right.
state.
So top down, some disaster befalls you, and then now your cells, so it's like you're a pyramid. You've got one brain, and then you've got trillions, billions of cells, and then all of those are in this low level danger response.
Yes. And
That's
then,
fun.
of course, a lot of the cellular response is happening through the nervous system. So it could be happening in the enteric system, which is in the gut. It could be happening in the fascia, which is under the skin. We talked about that's
So
actually
weird.
another nervous system giving the central nervous system feedback that there's danger still going on. So guess what? The body's interconnected.
Yeah, that's funny.
It communicates back and forth from each other.
Like weird, funny, not hot
Yeah.
dog.
Then you have this idea of as we heal, for every layer that you heal, you are going to have to deal with the stress that was put on you when that layer of fat or that layer of inflammation was put in the body. Old stress patterns, they must be resolved.
I gained 10 pounds around the death of my father. What you're saying is that losing that weight could potentially recreate the conditions that were surrounded when I gained it.
The emotional
That I'll have to kind of
experience.
process that emotional experience of it.
It will come out. Yes.
That's fun.
And it could be the reason why you can't lose that 10 or 15 pounds because it's hard to actually go in and deal with the trauma of that.
Yeah. 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 I think that's really interesting. Where also what you're talking about with emotional trauma, that you're going to be lingering in this fight or flight response and these kind of stress responses almost indefinitely in some cases.
The body doesn't heal in fight or flight, it heals in rest and digest.
Would you say it keeps the score?
It keeps the score.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's a very good book about that.
Yeah.
So, what are some common hidden blocks? We've talked about it. Nervous system is stuck in a survival mode. Poor drainage and detox bottlenecks. So, you could have had a huge toxic exposure, say, from moving into a moldy basement and living in there and being exposed to that. Why'd you make that face? Our basement's not moldy.
I don't know.
We're in a basement.
We are in a basement. It's a daylight basement.
It's a daylight
I
basement.
can look out the windows
As
here.
far as I
ground level.
know, there's no mold here.
No,
so.
I just like when you just start describing these things, I just have this desire to just kind of like act them out in like an interpretive kind of way.
Interpretive mold dance.
I guess.
Yes. So mold is one of those things that forms blockages in the liver and the gallbladder pathway hugely. So then the liver starts backing up. So then the gut starts backing up. So then the lymphatic system starts backing up.
Let's talk about blockages here because I think there's different types of blockage. Like if you're talking about lymphatic and drainage and like stuff like that, there are
Mhm.
medical conditions where it's like grandma has to wear TED hose because literally there's fluid building up in lower extremities in particular, or say like pulmonary edema, things like that. There's also these kind of like when you're talking about a liver block, help me out here because you could have what you might describe as a liver blockage, might not be a mechanical physical blockage in the liver. It might be something that's kind of systemic throughout the body, but the steps in between the chemical reactions of phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox, that there's something kind of like missing in that step. And so the liver is not completing its work. And so toxins are kind of falling back into the body as that way.
Wow, that was a good question. Let's break it down because there's a lot of different answers to
Sorry,
that.
that might be a little bit technical for my
Okay,
non-medical
so I want to
listeners.
talk about this because
Because like a liver is not like, it's not like there's a cork and I'm going to reach in and pull a cork out of the liver.
100% there could be an emotional blockage that's happening in the liver. We talked about that in our acupuncture episode.
I think you're going to need to unpack that a little bit for our Western medicine people.
Okay. So every organ in the body has an emotion that gets associated with it is basically the theme of that. And I always joke that I'm not the smart person who figured that out, but I know how to read the map and it's pretty darn accurate every time. For example, liver has to do with unprocessed anger, resentment, and frustration. And
Mean drunks.
yeah,
Just think
and
about that.
it doesn't have to be rage. It could be rage. It could be even a variant of betrayal. However,
Like victim of betrayal.
yeah. However, it doesn't necessarily need to be that extreme. It could just be these little nuanced frustrations that you deal with all the time that you say nothing about. That then leads to resentment, which is predominantly an emotion of the gallbladder, actually.
Okay.
So that's one way that we can try to figure out where what emotion needs to be processed out of the body. So, and we use that. It's based on acupuncture.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what I'm actually talking about
No,
is
what I was taught, I was
a
talking more about.
physical blockage.
No. But yes, it's a physical blockage.
It's a cellular blockage.
Well, cellular blockage, but like those processes are more like chemical, meaning that like phase 1, isn't it like kind of going out back into the body? It's not actually like a line, if that makes sense.
Are you talking about phase 1 detoxification of the liver?
I'm trying to give examples of like blockage of an organ system would be blocking complete function and not necessarily a mechanical blockage, meaning you could tell a patient like you have a liver blockage and this is what's happening.
Mhm.
But if we put you in some kind of imaging or contrast or scan, you might not physically be like, and it's right there.
Yeah.
Like you might not see a blockage, but it's an incomplete chemical reaction.
Yes.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Therefore, it's leading to a buildup. And it could be subtle.
Systemically in the body.
So let's back up because we're getting
Okay,
we're
we're
getting
in the
deep.
weeds. Yeah, maybe this is
So let's say that the liver is functioning at 100%. Like typically, let's say like a very healthy 8-year-old, like they have full liver function. They are just cleaning things out. They're being exposed to things and things are just moving out through the body. No problem. They got a nice fresh liver, right? Typically what happens over time, we're being slowly exposed to different things. Lots of sugar can do that. Pesticides can do that. Plastics, chemicals, heavy metals, those alcohol, drugs, even pharmaceutical drugs. All of these things have to be processed through the liver. It's not a zero. It's not like, hey, it came in and it went out and I can just take Tylenol for the rest of my life and not have an issue, right? You're going to pay a price and how well that liver can detox depending on what's available. What are you eating? If you're eating fast food and nerds candies all the time, you're not going to have a full spectrum of minerals and vitamins that are going to help that liver to repair, which livers repair quite well.
they're fortified though.
Yes. You're talking about the nerds?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if nerds are fortified. I don't even know if we can make that argument.
I made that up.
I don't think that's true.
But you don't like fortified junk food though. So
Exactly.
there's a double there.
There's no category available in the food needs for food dyes and sugar. Food dye sugar compacted into a biteable candy. The things our 8-year-olds used to eat. Like when we were 8 in the 80s, like
Candy
we were
cigarettes.
like candy cigarettes. What? Parents allowed this? This is funny. Hey, they were
Hey.
bubble gum or chocolate, something. I
They
don't
weren't
know.
even that good.
Or
I don't even know
chocolate.
what the
But
point
you
was.
wanted them. You wanted, like,
Yeah, it
it
was
was
awesome.
cool. It
Like
was
roll them up in my
fun.
sleeve and I'll be a greaser. It'll be cool. Check me out on
So,
my
yes,
bike.
it can be a cellular blockage. It could be we're looking for a dysfunction. We can try to pick that up in a blood test by saying, okay, here's our parameters for what we'd like to see it in a healthy person. Yours are 10% lower than that or 5% higher than that or whatever that might be. We might also, and I see this a ton, people get diagnosed with something called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And this is where they start to get an accumulation of fat inside the liver itself, which clogs the liver. Now, is the liver able to compensate? For the most part, how many years can people live with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease?
I mean, we're finding out every day.
Decades, right? They're not technically going jaundiced where they turn yellow,
Let's go.
but they are definitely sluggish. They start getting very sensitive to even drinking alcohol. They can't process it. It's really hard for them to deal with fatty foods. They're in a category where they're going to be more likely to have gallstones. So these are what we're talking about. It's like there's a huge difference between it showing up on the lab and we've got to do liver surgery or replace the liver and hey, your liver is not at 100%. We need to clean this out.
Well, right. I think with fatty liver disease, the one question that I had about that would be generally there's this concept where toxins can be stored in lipids. And so I'm wondering if that's also kind of a shortcut. If we were talking earlier about phases of detox, if the body can't quite get through all of those, fatty liver might be kind of a cheat code.
I think it is. I think what happens is the fat starts to accumulate in the adipose, which is in the gut, the top of the gut, and that is very inflammatory. And eventually it just starts to deposit itself around the organs. And the liver is a huge filter organ, but we will see fatty deposits around the kidneys as well.
But I meant like particularly like in a fatty liver, does that have more toxicity in that fat than you would see in other parts of the body?
I don't know. Good question. I don't know.
Okay.
But I will say that as people lose weight, they feel toxic.
You detox.
They detox because all of that is being stored in the fat.
But that would be systemic fat loss.
Right.
So was that the liver fat that was like
Don't know.
toxic or
Don't know that one.
Yeah, I was just curious about that.
So as we deal with that drainage, we can start to open up those bottlenecks that are happening in the body. And by the way, you use the example of lymphadenopathy, and that is huge. You've got to make sure the liver is draining correctly and you've got to make sure the gut is draining correctly. So it's very difficult to get rid of swelling and lymphedema in the body if you, for example, are chronically constipated. Like there's nowhere for the lymphatics to drain.
Okay.
So think about it that way. Of course, blood sugar instability. And then we talked about unresolved emotional trauma. And then we've got the spiritual aspect too. If a person is on the self-help train all the time and they think, well, I just need to self-help my way out of this and I've got nowhere to put this, they're going to constantly be kind of beating themselves up.
So to someone with a strictly kind of biomechanical view of the body, a lot of this stuff won't really make sense. However, there's just these little ways, and sometimes they can lead to big outcomes, but there's just these ways that, say, like a person that has unresolved trauma, unresolved anger, bitterness, unresolved sadness will just kind of show up with certain, sometimes very predictable kind of biological patterns.
Well, and we see this in families too, right? It's like
Yeah.
every
Oh, it's just genetics. That's just
Yeah, they want to chalk it up to genetics, but we have talked about this and we can't decide who had the quote first, but genetics are the gun and lifestyle is going to pull the trigger to that gun, right? Are you an alcoholic if you never drink alcohol? You might have tendencies. You might be a sugaraholic. You might be a foodaholic.
What about sugar alcohols?
You might consume
Sorbitol.
a lot of sorbitol or xylitol.
Yeah.
Right.
Ooh, that's a fun one.
So
It's not that.
erythritol, so
People sleep on erythritol.
okay, we're nerds.
I'm sorry.
Like that is, we just are, if we had a family quiz on alcohol sugars, we would have rocked it right there.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, Lockwood.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So, yeah, it's definitely a different way of thinking, and coming from a more biomedical background, it was very difficult for me to switch into this mindset, but this is what I experience in clinic working with people. You can go biomechanical all day long and you're going to get about 80% there, and you're not going to get that last 20%. And that's where the healing's at. That is actually where the transformation is.
So what she's saying is that you could do everything physically to get physically healthier if your emotions and your spiritual health are not in order, that there will be problems that are very frustrating to you that will not be resolved until you do things like forgive people that wronged you,
Yeah, it's true. It's really true. And
face hard emotions.
yeah, and because part of being healthy is being balanced, right? People come in, I want to be balanced.
Yeah.
Great. How's your relationships? Well, I've been through this and that, or
My husband's
my
awful.
spouse is terrible, or this and that. Okay,
Everything
well,
sucks.
that's part of being balanced, right? When we did that wheel of health or whatever it's
Did we do
called,
that on the podcast?
we didn't do it on the podcast, but we've
We've
done it
done
in
it
the
in
past.
in other programs
We've
that
done
we've
it in
taught.
other programs, and the lowest one for Rich and I was it fun time, relaxation, and spirituality was one of our lowest ones when we
At that
first
point was,
started
yeah,
and looked
spirituality.
at it. And that is actually when I really started to take a hard look. I was like, wow, actually, I don't have a very good spiritual life.
Yeah.
I don't have anything that I'm able to trust enough to give it to outside of myself, right?
Mm.
Even though I had a great husband, it's like it was
That's
still
still me.
it's you.
Okay.
Just so we're clear. But I think but yeah. And so that was something that I really had to look at, because if we're after this elusive idea of balance and we are really great at making money, but we don't know how to go back and deal with the trauma from our past, and we keep recreating that in terrible relationships, guess what? You're never going to be balanced.
Right. And even biomechanically, it's just not going to work. Your
Yeah.
body is not going to work right if you're dealing with kind of breakup after breakup and just stuff like that. It's like you're going to be losing sleep. You're going to be upset. You're going to be angry. You're going to be very tempted to reach for things to try and like make you whole. Maybe alcohol, food, medications, high risk behaviors, overspending, just all the usual stuff. And you're not going to, of course, you're not going to feel like as your peak self if you're kind of habitually kind of going back to those things every few months, every few years.
And you can't force yourself. Like, you can't just be like, body, do the thing that I want you to do now. Can't do that.
Yeah, it almost gets into like an altar. So, an altar spiritually is this place of exchange. And it's like you can't steal from an altar. Like in Indiana Jones, when he's like, there's that huge, like, golden statue, and he's like, I'm going to steal the statue and I'm going to put like sand here and this is going to be great.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, all of a sudden the temple's collapsing and he's getting shot at.
With the little arrows.
The little arrows coming through the wall. It's like, this
Right.
doesn't make sense. But the point is that we can't go and just steal from something like that. Like, I want to be or I want to be physically just 110%, just flat abs and just out there running a marathon, feeling great, full head of hair, and just waking up like a daisy after 8.2 hours of sleep. And my kids hate me, my dog died, my girl left, and just all this stuff. You're stealing from that altar.
Yeah.
And that's that place of exchange.
Well, we run
So the
into
equation
this.
has to be balanced.
We run into this with our athletes,
Ooh.
where they really try to out supplement a very stressed nervous system.
Yeah.
And the problem is, in order to push yourself to those limits and really be competitive, you're going to be in a fight or flight state. You're going to run a little bit higher cortisol because your body is in this stress state. Push itself, right?
Yeah.
But safety is required for repair. You cannot be in a sympathetic overdrive, which is that fight or flight nervous system, and heal. You need to be in parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. That's where we heal.
There's almost this way that it can kind of like build up, and you can fight this off, as it were, for 5 years, 10 years, sometimes even 15 or 20 years. But at some point, it's almost like you've been avoiding this hangover, but it didn't really go away. You just now owe 5 years straight of hangovers.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
and we
it's
can medically,
terrible.
there's a lot that we can do for that, not necessarily for like an alcohol hangover. What I mean is basically burning the candle at both ends, as it were, physically and emotionally. And then all of a sudden you're 10, 20 years into living as almost like a professional athlete. And it's
Yeah.
like you're going to have some fallout from that.
Well, and there's a reason why most athletes are after 35, they're kind of done, you
Yeah, it
know?
depends on when you start.
Yeah. I mean, maybe like
I mean,
golf might be one of those
10 to
ones
20 year career.
you can do for a while.
Yeah, or
Although,
5 to 20 years.
I mean,
But
you could obviously injure yourself and not do it, but you know, there's older golfers
crash the cart.
for sure.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing golf people. Jesus loves you.
Okay.
All right.
So that's it. That's what we wanted
Okay.
to talk about. We
Great.
wanted to talk about the order of healing. We wanted to talk about you can't skip steps. You need to understand that there's no way for you to out supplement and out exercise and out all of those things, especially if it's been going on for a while. I feel like people fall into this trap because when we were in our 20s, if we wanted to like lose 10 pounds, we'd just be like, I'm just not going to eat bread for a week. And then you just drop 10 pounds and it was like, you felt great, right?
Youth is wasted on the young.
It really is. And, you know, the majority of our patients are in their mid, I mean, we obviously have
I'd
kid
say
patients
30
and
and
stuff,
up.
30 and up, but I would say we deal a lot with people in their late 30s and up. They will come in very frustrated because they've been doing all the things. They've been fasting. They've been listening to Joe Rogan and doing cold plunging. They've been doing all the things and they're finding it still very difficult to lose weight or regain their energy or things like that. So there's definitely just an order that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I think you've talked about this before in the terms of like, hey, you're not gonna lose weight until we solve blood sugar. And then so blood sugar and then inflammation and then hormones
No,
and
so
then
you're talking about the hormone
yeah,
hierarchy.
like
So it
I think
goes
that's
blood
kind of what we're getting
sugar,
back.
stress, adrenaline
Okay,
response,
there you go.
hormones, which would be like sex
Thyroid to be
hormones.
kind. Okay, yeah, then
Yeah,
sex
but
hormones.
blood
Okay, yeah.
sugar is the top of that. It is the top of the
Step one.
hierarchy. Yes. And if your stress and adrenaline response is off, it will cause you to have a dysregulated blood sugar response too.
And it's also going to increase cravings.
Yes.
So stress is so interesting and the stress response, because it's going to it's going to reprioritize your body into short-term thinking. And so it's like, if you're going to die tomorrow, I'm not really thinking about my retirement.
Right.
And so your body is the same way. Like biologically, it's the same way. If you're worried about tonight and you're like, how am I even going to get through this deadline? Your body's like, okay, yeah, let's just get through the deadline. And all of a sudden, things like using too much alcohol, smoking, eating unhealthy, weight gain, inflammation, nascent heart disease, those things don't really matter because you are telling your body what to focus on. Get me through today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we have a quote here. You want to read the Bible quote?
Okay.
Isaiah 30:15.
I know how to read. Oh, we're going. Oh, okay. I got something. Huh, interesting. Yeah, 30:15. Thus the Lord God, the Holy One of Israel, has said, in repentance and rest you will be saved. In quietness and trust is your strength. But you were not willing.
Dang.
That's interesting. You know what, actually, I've been I've been doing this thing where I'll just read the Bible cover to cover. And in this read through that I just started, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago or whatever, I'm seeing over and over again where the Sabbath rest, as in, once a week, you were just setting everything down and you were resting. You're going
Mm-hmm.
to pray, you're going to be with your family, take a walk outside, but not as long as it's not like some kind of reaching the point of toil. And they actually had a distance limit on how far that was, but that was actually equated with faith. And at first it doesn't make sense, but it kind of does when you think about it. Unless I work 80 hours a week, I'm going to starve to death, right? And so rest, but measured rest, is actually a sign of faith.
That's true. I love it said right here because we talked about liver, right? And we talked about unforgiveness and we talked about frustration. And it says, in repentance and rest, you will be saved. So the first thing is you have to repent, meaning you have to admit, wow, I am so sorry that I made my work more important than my rest, or my work more important than my family, or I made my striving for money more important than my taking care of my health, right? And then you have to turn away. It is to acknowledge where your fault is and to turn away. That is repentance and rest. So repentance, then you rest. You will be saved. It's so interesting. Both of
Yeah.
those things are required. I'm sorry that I overworked myself. Now I'm going to rest. And in the quietness and trust is your strength, but you were not willing.
I think a lot of these things also, we're not talking to everybody, but if we're talking to you, you know it.
If you know,
So
you know.
there's other people that they're doing a lot of resting,
Hmm.
and so that's also a lack of faith. It's like God says there's $1 million outside, but you got to get off the couch. And you're just like,
But Netflix.
I don't really think there's $1 million outside because I don't have faith for that. And so I'm staying in here in the couch where it's warm. Right. And so there is this way that overworking is kind of this lack of faith and saying, God's never going to provide enough. I've got to go do it myself. Right. And that's lack of faith. But there's also this lack of faith that's like, everything sucks. So I'm not even going to try. And
Yeah.
so I know we're talking up rest and stuff like that. But, here and there, you'll see people that are just like out of gear,
Yep.
just
They're
in
resting
neutral.
too much.
They're just coasting life.
I find that I tend towards the work. And if I'm forced to rest, then I almost over rest. So I was
Hmm.
really trying to work on that, like break that we had, because I still went to the gym and I still tried to like keep in a semblance of a routine so that I wouldn't fall into just Netflix and chill. Although we don't have Netflix. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I would say balance is probably one of the harder things to achieve. In some ways, it's just like either we're going like there's no tomorrow, or I'm completely out of gear and I haven't even answered my phone in 3 days. So
It's we're works in progress. We're not perfect. That's for sure.
we're going to keep working. No.
So healing doesn't come from striving harder, it comes from resting in alignment.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that more in the next episode because we're going to talk about burnout.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to talk about what it looks like when you don't rest. And now you're walking into our office like a pancake that needs to be taken off the floor because you are just completely out of energy. You're flat. You're flat.
Why are there pancakes on the floor?
It's just something I say. I don't even know. Anyway.
Does the dog know about this? We don't even have a
Yep.
dog right now.
Well, thank you for joining us for episode 30. We will see you on episode 31. Have a great day.
Thank you.